Hello and welcome to the Mental Health Hotline. If you are obsessive compulsive, press 1 repeatedly. If you are codependent, ask someone to press 2 for you. If you have multiple personalities, press 3, 4, 5, and 6. If you are paranoid, we know what you are and what you want. Stay on the line and we'll trace your call. If you're delusional, press 7 and your call will be transferred to the mothership. If you are schizophrenic, listen carefully and a small voice will tell you which number to press. If you are depressive, it doesn't matter which number you press, no one will answer you. If you are dyslexic, press 69696969. If you have a nervous disorder, please fidget with the hash key until the beep. After the beep, please wait for the beep. If you have a short-term memory loss, please try your call again later. And if you have low self-esteem, hang up. All our operators are too busy to talk to you.
take your questions.
Is it a virus?
We don't know.
How does it spread? Is it airborne?
Airborne is a possibility. We don't know.
Is this an international health hazard or a military concern?
Both.
Are these people alive or dead?
Hold him down!
We don't know.
Is that true?
There's a man going around taking names, and he decides who to free and who to blame. Everybody won't be treated all the same. There'll be a golden ladder reaching down when the man comes around. The hairs on your arm will stand up at the terror in each sip and in each sup. Will you partake of that last offered cup, or disappear into the potter's ground when the man comes around? Hear the trumpets, hear the pipers, 100 million angels singing. Multitudes are marching to the big kettle drum. Voices calling, voices crying.
He's been in constant contact with the CDC as well as FEMA. No more pressure.
And the whirlwind is in the thorn tree. The virgins are all trimming their wigs.
Stay back right there! A U.S. God, they're here!
Beasts, and I looked and behold, a pale horse, and his name that sat on him was Death, and hell followed with him.
This is more like a slow-moving tsunami, where human life, as we know it today, might not be the same kind of life we see just 30 years from now. The reason being, is if you think about safe childbirth, if you think about surgery, if you think about immunotherapy for cancer, and many of the medical interventions that makes our lives longer and more healthy, more productive, might no longer be possible.
There's also the issue of timing. Right. I mean, this is happening on Friday is New Year's Eve for the Chinese. This next week is like the biggest traveling time of the year. So this could have happened in the middle of the year and it would have been different. But the timing of these things is often, and that's not predictable.
A preliminary investigation into a mysterious pneumonia outbreak in China has been identified as a previously unknown coronavirus.
We have a really interesting topic to talk about here today. So, Dr. Hache, I'd like to really start with you and ask you a question that is increasingly on our minds this week in particular. The world has seen a growing number of epidemics in recent years: Ebola, Zika, SARS, and now we're hearing reports of the coronavirus outbreak in China. Could you speak a bit about the likelihood of these events becoming a global threat, and how prepared are we to respond?
Well, thank you for the question. It's a very timely question, obviously, with the emergence of the novel coronavirus. I've been working on epidemic threats and epidemic response for about 20 years, both in my current role and previously in the U.S. government. I think the risk of epidemic disease, you talked about the increasing number of threats. I think that is a real phenomenon. I don't think it's that we're increasingly attentive to them. I think it's a real phenomenon. I think it is related to how societies are currently organized and the complexity of societies, their the speed with which people move around the world.
New cases have now appeared in Europe and in 6 other countries, and a second U.S. case was confirmed today.
10 days ago, there are only 41 cases of novel coronavirus. Now, there are more than 1,200.
The initial outbreak in China has now spread to at least 6 other countries, including France and the U.S.
The city is on ever greater lockdown, with cars now banned. 56 million people in the region are under a travel ban.
There are now 35 cases outside China in 13 countries or territories. Today, Australia and Malaysia joined this growing list.
The rest of China is closing off.
Shanghai Disneyland, Disneytown including Walt Disney Grand Theater and Wishing Star Park are temporarily closed now.
Disneyland Shanghai should be packed over the New Year's break. Instead, it's empty.
Today is the biggest holiday in the country, the Chinese New Year, and cities in the hot zone are on lockdown. Police are armed with long guns, making sure no one enters or leaves.
I think the most concerning thing is this massive quarantine of over 35 million people, the largest quarantine ever undertaken in human history.
I think the concern is that the diseases that we see emerge have I would almost say a Darwinian imperative to find communities where they can break out and propagate. And Ebola is a great example. Ebola was discovered more than 40 years ago and ultimately found in West Africa sort of a perfect setting in which you could have a large explosive outbreak. And now we're in the midst of the second largest outbreak of Ebola ever. So the 2 largest Ebola outbreaks ever have both occurred in the last 5 years, and I don't think that's a coincidence. Now we're seeing the emergence of a third coronavirus. SARS was the first coronavirus that we had significant concerns about. It broke out in 2003. MERS came along a decade later. Neither of those viruses was very easily transmissible. They were transmissible. They caused a lot of disease. But we knew that coronaviruses as a class represented a threat to humanity. And what people are concerned about now with the current coronavirus is perhaps this is the coronavirus that we've been fearing, which is one that is more easily transmissible than SARS or MERS, and with a lethality that is sufficiently high that if it became a globally disseminated disease could potentially affect a very large number of people and potentially cause tens, hundreds of thousands of deaths or even millions of deaths. And that's a really frightening prospect. Just to conclude, I think we need to acknowledge that these epidemic diseases are, in fact, a structural threat for the societies that we've created for ourselves.
Tom Boyke says this novel virus in China is not yet cause for alarm for Americans. There are plenty of other viruses right here to worry about.
We're in the midst of a terrible flu season.
Alarming new numbers tonight in the nationwide flu outbreak. Flu activity is now high in 34 states. It hasn't been this widespread this early in the season in more than a decade.
And more cases of a deadly virus from China are popping up all around the world.
Health leaders say that the number of people statewide being hospitalized for the flu has more than tripled compared to last year.
Today, the CDC reported there have been more than 55,000 hospitalizations this flu season. Usually, the predominant strain is influenza A, but this year it's been influenza B so far.
But we also have a much more questioning public. And I think that there's a lot of things that are converging right now that it's about complex threats. I mean, there's the whole digital revolution that has added a whole level of opportunity on the one hand, and yet threat. I mean, the Global Risk Report, the 2013 one, coined this term digital wildfires in a hyper-connected world. I've referred to that phrase a lot. And actually, I really like the parallel to wildfires, particularly right now when we look at what's happening in Australia. One of the things the physicists and engineers have said about trying to, analyze these patterns of these new fires, and what they've said is they're burning hotter, faster, and less predictably. And I couldn't think of a better metaphor than some of the diseases.
And I think Heidi made a very important point, which is worth underscoring, which is how particularly with vaccine hesitancy, but even to some extent with antimicrobial resistance or with epidemics, I mean, these are kind of represented here. These are the three great narratives, you know, in sort of infectious disease at the moment. And then each of them underneath, and I think you've outlined it for vaccine hesitancy very well, brings together a constellation of narratives that interact in ways that are very unpredictable, and then you superimpose digital wildfires and social media, and it becomes really, really toxic. And so you're about to see, I would predict with Wuhan, you're about to see social reactions that are probably going to be disproportionate to the current threat, at least, and they're going to cause tremendous damage in much the same way that you see social reactions to these narratives swirling around vaccine hesitancy.
In DRC, our challenge is also there's conflict, insecurity. We haven't eradicated polio because of conflict and security in the northwest frontier in Pakistan and in northeast Boko Haram in Nigeria. It's no coincidence that they're harboring the remaining wild virus in the world. And by the way, polio is coming back. You know, we've had the Philippines case, it's come up now in Malaysia. We had a case in Ukraine a few years ago. We didn't have the security issues that we have now in Pakistan and Nigeria. It was actually, we weren't even worried about Pakistan. We were more focused on a small section in India and a boycott in Nigeria, and which we resolved, but we wouldn't have been able to do that in the current environment.
And this goes back to the point that I was making about these being sort of an inherent risk in the societies that we've constructed for ourselves. There is almost an actuarial risk, and you know, we saw Nipah in 1999 and SARS in 2003, H5N1 in 2005, H1N1 in 2009. These things, they're all different. You can't predict what it's going to be next time, but they're coming along at every 2 to 3, maybe 4 years at the outset, and the risk tolerance of society for infectious diseases has decreased dramatically, and part of the reason it's decreased dramatically is because the disruption that they cause, because of the interdependencies within society, the economic costs have become astronomical.
This was already ambitious, to build a 1,000-bed hospital from scratch in less than a week. But authorities have decided it will not be enough. A second, bigger hospital has been commissioned. Each hour seems to bring a new measure from the Chinese government, and that seems to offer the opposite of reassurance. If the response is like this, how big must the danger be?
I'm sure you've heard about some of the chaos that went down in Madison last month. Some of this footage is violent and very disturbing.
Hey, what's the matter with you? We can't just sit back and do nothing, all right? He's my brother.
But you're talking about taking on the actual U.S. Army. Okay, with a couple of wannabe badasses, 3 civilians, a wounded internet truther, and a child.
I am totally not prepared for a war. Nobody's saying anything about going to war.
by the line at its gate. I know of truth and America's way. So come drink the water if you wanna be saved. Don't drink the water if it's not from my stream. It's all still water if it's not flowing free. Don't drink the water at the watering hole. 'Cause if you ain't got money, then it can't save your soul. And all God's people said amen. All God's people said amen. I know of sin by the things Mama prayed. Well, I know of heaven by the line at its gate. I know of truth and America's way. So come drink the water if you wanna be saved. And all God's people said amen. And all God's people said amen. Nobody prays unless they lose a son. They don't believe in God till the war's to be won. Well, I know of lies by the truths I've been told, and the biggest ones that we're not growing old. It's not a sin if it don't make me cry. He's not the devil unless there's fire in his eyes. Well, it ain't the ghost if it don't speak in tongue. Well, it's not a victory till the battle's been won. God's people said amen. And all God's people said
appears to be a previously unknown variant of the flu, suspected case catching many experts off guard.
Today I was feeling like maybe
Back on the breaking news, leading with unconfirmed reports of a smallpox
outbreak is a highly rehearsed scenario.
And National Guard units converging on a hospital in central Manhattan.
The bridges are closed. It's a war zone.
Smallpox is a very real danger.
deaths than AIDS, more than Ebola.
There's not enough vaccines.
Let me stop you there. This is not a panic situation.
Back here live at the Waterfront Village with my friend, the zombie, Jonathan. You're looking good. Jonathan just got an awesome face paint job. What do you think?
I like turtles.
Eric Hubbard was sitting in a friend's car eating lunch when Friday's tornado came barreling toward them.
I was scared. I was finna eat a hamburger, it took it. And I don't even know where it's at.
Well, obviously we have a rapist in Lincoln Park. He's climbing in your windows, he's snatching your people up, trying to rape them. So y'all need to hide your kids, hide your wife, and hide your husband because they raping everybody out here.
The attacker got loose and went out the upstairs window, but he did leave something behind.
We got your t-shirt, you done left fingerprints and all. You are so dumb. You are really dumb, for real. You don't have to come and confess that you did it. We're looking for you. We gonna find you. I'm letting you know now, so you can run and tell that. homeboy.
To me, it look like a leprechaun to me. All you gotta do is look up in the tree. Who else seen the leprechaun say yeah?
Eyewitnesses say the leprechaun only comes out at night. If you shine a light in its direction, it suddenly disappears. This amateur sketch resembles what many of you say the leprechaun looks like. Others find it hard to believe and have come up with their own theories and explanations for the image.
My theory is it's casting a shadow from the other limb.
Could be a crackhead that got hold to the wrong stuff. And it told him to get up in a tree and play a leprechaun.
We're going to get down to the bottom of this. Yeah, it's still on there, guy. Don't be afraid. Don't be afraid, man.
This guy helping to direct traffic says he's prepared for his encounter with the leprechaun. He's suited up from head to toe.
This wars off spells right here. This is a special leprechaun flute, which has been passed down from thousands of years ago from my great-great-grandfather who was Irish. I just came to help out.
Others just came to get lucky in hopes a pot of gold may be buried under this tree.
I didn't make anybody stay here until 7 a.m. or 11 or whenever it is everybody finally left. I didn't make this kid pass out on my floor. People wanted to be here. That was their decision.
Oh, bro, it's just like, dude, you get the best barrels ever, dude. Just like you pull in and you just get spit right out of them. And you just drop in and just smack the lip. Whoop-ah, drop down, snap, ah! And then after that, you just drop in. You just ride the barrel and get pitted, so pitted like that.
I ain't no robbing type of person. I wouldn't do nothing to no innocent man. I've been robbed. I've been pistol whipped. They got that on file. I'm innocent. I ain't do nothing. I don't know what's going on. All I know is my side of the story. I can't tell no other story. I'm innocent. And Mama, I love you. P.O.P. all the time. Right, these all good pimp squad, baby, for life.
Surveillance tape is catching a routine morning at this gas station on Bannister until chaos erupts.
I was putting one more tap of coffee in my coffee cup, and out of the corner of my eyes, I saw two guys come in, one with a black hoodie and one with a white hoodie. And the guy with the black hoodie said, "We want your money, everybody up front and down." And I'm like, oh, why did I need coffee now? The guy in the black starts coming down, and I'm like, don't look, don't look, don't look. So I'm putting my hair down, you know, and he comes right to me and he goes, "Get down now." And I go, "Yes, sir." And I just dropped to my knees. Then I heard, boom, boom, boom. And I'm like, oh my God. So I back farther and farther away. And I think maybe I should faint, but I don't. And so then I'm thinking, count to 2,000 again. So I did. And then I go, mi amigos, mi amigos. Nobody said nothing. I'm like, oh my God, they're dead.
Kuru is the one that first brought attention to prion diseases in humans. And this little boy that's being carried by his mother is an example of a child affected by Kuru. It was first discovered in the 1950s in geographically isolated tribes in the Foray Highlands of New Guinea. Because what happens in this group, these tribes, is that they have a religious ceremony in which they honor their dead. And by honoring their dead, they ingest parts of their bodies. So it's a cannibalistic ritual. And more women and children were affected because the males were eating more of the muscle tissue, the meat, off of the dead relative, but the females and children were lower in status, and so they got the less prime cuts, if you want to talk about it that way. And so they were eating stuff that was near the brain and spinal cord, and so they were affected by Kuru because these prion diseases hang out there. And so pretty much they think that one person came down with it, and then their family members ate it, they came down with it, then their family members, and it basically spread out in a ripple effect. This practice, this religious practice, has been outlawed, and there haven't been very many cases of kurus since then.
Just minding my own business. BAM! Hit me hard right from the back. I was glued to my seat. I was like, whoa! I could see the car in front of me. I was about to hit him, so I kind of veered off this way. As I veered off this way, the guy who hit me veered off that other way, and he hit the curb, flipped over, rolled over, run into the electrical pole, and I didn't know he hit the pole. All of a sudden, I kind of stopped, and I was like, whoa! And the wires come down, boom, and then arc, bam, that fire was coming everywhere. It was arcing, sparking, blowing up. I saw one arc go from the corner of my van up to the car behind me. It was like a big rainbow, boom, and it was coming up, boom, boom, and I was like, shoo! So I opened up my door, I didn't touch no metal, and as I come up, I started to touch the top, and a little spark jumped up. I was like, whoa! I stepped out the rest of the way. Lucky I didn't get burned more. So, crazy? Oh, it was crazy, dude. I was just sitting there, and I was like, oh! Reality hits you hard, bro.
Well, the police wouldn't let me go through 122nd, so I had to go around 119th and go, they let me look at the lawyer's building. I know the vacuum cleaner man. He's seen my tits. I know that's not going on TV, but it's true. It's true. I'm not here to lie to you. I was trying to get a hold of him because I couldn't identify the business. That window got blown out, and I was trying to help the police figure out who to contact to secure that poor business.
Did you see the damage to the building then? All the bricks?
Yes. He must have been gravely hurt. He must have been badly hurt, injured.
How fast do you think someone must have been going?
I haven't been allowed to drive for 3 years, so I am not a good judge of that.
Anything else you wanted to add about what you saw?
You want to see my tits?
I was in the passenger side of this fucker's car, and he comes over on there. He was over by the recycling center. He says, oh, when I was in the Virgin Islands, 30 years old on a business trip, I fucked this 14-year-old. I was like, you what? He's like, I raped this 14-year-old, starts crying, gives me a big hug. He's like fucking 300-pound guy. I'm like, oh shit, you must be fuckered, man. Like, what's he talking about? I didn't take him seriously at first. Comes driving down this way. He's like, you know what? I come to realize I'm Jesus Christ, and I can do anything I fucking want to. And watch this, bam, and he smashed into this fucking guy right there, pinned him in between that fucking truck. And so I hop out, I look over, the guy's pinned there. I mean, like, freight train riders know this. Like, if you get pinned between something, do not fucking move that shit, otherwise you bleed out. Like, motherfucking, I ran in, I grabbed the keys, he's fucking sitting there like nothing even happened. And like fucking like, man, if you started driving that car around again, man, there would have been a hell of a lot of bodies around here. Fucking, I hop on out, and so I grabbed the bag, I threw it over by that pole right there, and then fucking buddy gets out, and these two women are trying to help him. He runs up and he grabs one of them, man. Like, a guy that big can snap a woman's neck like a pencil stick. So I fucking ran up behind him with a hatchet, smash, smash, smash. Yeah.
And so, without further ado, here it is.
Make a note. Give it to Kathy, who may be the best at this. Since we're going to wish people a happy Rosh Hashanah, which is my idea and a good idea, just don't forget to check when Ramadan is. We have to wish all of our Muslim friends happy Ramadan. Happy Ramadan.
Osama bin Laden.
Happy Ramadan.
Osama bin Laden.
Happy Ramadan.
Osama bin Laden.
Happy Ramadan.
Osama bin.
Happy Ramadan. Happy Ramadan.
Long live
Osama bin Laden.
Long live
Osama bin Laden.
We have contributed to making a cult figure out of Osama
bin Laden.
See, Osama bin Laden,
his stated goal,
wants to destroy America.
At least he said it to me.
That's what I say to the American people. We've never seen this kind of evil before.
The new mandate is throw off
off the tattered, tasseled layers of horse shit. The bottom line, we are the real movement. We're the people who have the job of exposing big-time mainstream news as the frauds they are. Along the way, we've encountered some strange ghouls and goblins, just to sketch in a few recent editions. Scott Pelley, CBS, is careful to watch himself. His tendency to shove the message down the viewer's throat like a pro surgeon making an incision without bothering to administer an anesthetic. Pelley's been working to correct that. He's a high-Q android who's training himself to be human, and it's not going well. Diane, formerly of ABC, Don't Cry For Me America Sawyer, wandered into sloppiness. She poured syrup on her words as if she'd had a few cocktails before breakfast. She affected a pose of caring too much and refusing to apologize for it. I'm suffering for humanity and I won't cover it up. Sniff, sniff. But being put out to dry for lying and being shot in Iraq, Brian Williams, NBC, was head and shoulders above his competitors. You had to look and listen very hard to spot even a speck of confusion in his delivery. He knew exactly how to believe his act was real. He could also flick a little "oh shucks" apple pie at the viewer, country boy who moved to the big city. Of course, Brian is now back. His bosses let him sneak in a side door at MSNBC, the only major news channel with ratings lower than Howdy Doody reruns. Brian just let loose with a sober, reasoned criticism of fake news sites the other day, claiming the real news has a responsibility to shoulder the load of truth. He neglected to mention he was kicked out of the news business for spreading fake news about himself. But no problem. The past is dead and he's a new man thanks to the love of his family and his deep reflections on character, mission, devotion, fidelity, and shilling for his masters. Those are a few of the ghouls among many.
Equally as formidable in the sense of being, I would use the word evil. Evildoers.
The battle of good against evil.
We're in the middle of the death throes of the old guard, and we need to recognize that they're going away. Independent media are taking over. It's called decentralization. Blackouts and censorship are the only weapons they have left. And guess how they're trying to make that happen? They're appealing to social media. Twitter, YouTube, Facebook, and Google, which, through its rankings, is a form of social media. Amazing.
Don't go to hell. Please, I beg you, don't go to hell.
Social media numbers are far higher than those of major newspapers and television news. When CNN started out as the first 24/7 all-news global network, they were the rebels. They were the new faces and the interlopers, and they were hell-bent on muscling into the game. Of course, their predilection for honesty was just another con. Eventually, they turned into the media giants they purportedly hated. And now, with their rankings in the tank, they can't go back. They're trapped. They can't reinvent themselves as new kids on the block. They're slow. They're Clinton fellow travelers. They are racists accusing other people of being racists. They're basically a bunch of miscreants who, if they didn't have their jobs, would be lucky to land gigs pumping gas in Death Valley. It's a sight to behold.
Every bit as strongly as they hold theirs. And now is the time to show it.
For the most part, Fox, another upstart, became a parade of young blondes who, one after another, rose and then fell. Remembering their names was like remembering winners of the Miss America pageant.
Even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I fear no evil.
George Bush looks as if he may go into this as a boy and come out a man.
I think he has a tremendous asset in this crisis, and that is his simplicity.
The American people...
Shazam! He feels more and more like the commander-in-chief.
he was Jimmy Stewart tonight.
Thank you.
Megyn Kelly,
is also
the latest
bringing to
edition,
bear
thinks
the
she's
assets
immune
and
from that fate.
instruments of national
Watch out, Em.
of
A few years from now, you could become just another tired face on one of the major networks' morning gab shows, listening attentively to some tattooed teen rocker talk about the drop of his latest album, his interest in wildlife sanctuaries, and his love of brisket sandwiches from some New York City deli 300 million Americans have never heard of. It's all going away. Bye-bye.
Stop it.
You have a choice. You can read, listen to, and watch any of 100,000 sites and blogs for your news. Or you can attach yourself like a barnacle to the slow-moving, spewing ships of state and corporate media. You can hope that the consensus status quo will hold, and reality will basically remain unchanged. Or you can dump that fairy tale. You can believe that all significant events on this planet emerge organically, randomly, accidentally, or you can investigate the concept that elite groups are steering us towards their new world. Because they live for control. You can live in a hazy, gauzy dream that siphons away your energy, or you can embark on a new course of adventure that strips away the veneer and the shadows. You can believe you are helpless before larger forces, or you can invent a different vision for yourself. You can raise your children to be pawns, or you can inspire them with the knowledge of their own freedom and power.
Kennedy made a speech at American University in June of the year before he died. And he said, we live in one world, we got to breathe in the same air, and we got to live together, we're going to die together.
What happened?
You can leave things to others, or you can join in the fray. You can claim you don't know what to do, or you can figure out what to do on your own. When I started the site in 2001, I shoved all my chips on the idea that there were many individuals out there who could re-grasp their own power and figure out what to do on their own. I welcomed the old layer of media reality being stripped away, because that leaves the individual in charge. Toss that old chunk of mind control and hypnosis into the garbage and cross the threshold into a new time, the time you make. Don't complain, don't explain, you're the new elite. Accept it. An elite without the desire to control others, an elite based on merit, an elite based on life force, showing up when you know the future is unwritten. Is that too much to ask? I don't think so at all. The game is afoot. The game is always afoot, if you can see it.